Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Iron Cannon Podcast, your home for in-depth discussion on the lore, the narrative, and the big ideas of the galaxy far, far away. My name is Matthew, and I am coming to you, as always, from the home of the next World Series champions, the Toronto Blue Jays, Underworld North Studios in Toronto. I hope I didn't jinx it. As always, I'm going to cross the continent by your friend of mine in enemy territory, Mr. Joel Davis. Joel, how are you doing this week?
Well, clearly the podcast gods may not be happy because I'm having lag. But overall, go Dodgers. We are the gods true given team. But no.
Yeah.
Yep, we're over here. Even though technically I'm Orange County, we're an LA family. I'm born in LA, so kind of got the spirit.
I suppose that's fair. Any other year, I'd be like, eh.
Yeah.
And viewers on the screen can see. Because I haven't seen you enough this weekend, Ash. How's it going?
I'm doing okay. Doing okay. Stressed about the World Series. That first game that we got to kind of see together.
Yeah.
From right across the street.
That was
from where it was happening. The best time.
Well, yeah,
go Jays. Again, like hometown loyalty, I can understand. So, can't be too mad at Joel.
So yes, if all of our attentions are divided, I know Joel, you're saying your dad is watching, and then Ash and I are watching. Dom is actually at the Sky Dome watching. So
nice.
There we go. And Boba Fett just got picked off by sleeping. Anyway, all right. Yeah. Anyways, we got a Star Wars podcast to do. How's it going, Daisy? I know we're talking about baseball. It's weird sport. Ever since the Disney changeover, the EU fans have been clamoring for their favorite characters, storylines, factions, and concepts to make their return to canon. Now, over a decade later, Thrawn is the only major example of that Legends-to-Canon pipeline, alongside some very minor, very, very minor ones. But this week, in Lego form and elsewhere, some other examples. But this week we look at what kinds of return to story there could be, and offer some of our favorite examples. And again, I must mention the guest, the second Ash cosplayer in a row. That's all right. It's a good name, good way to be. So let's get into
the ashes. Another ash rises.
Yes, there we go. There we go.
We don't
much awaited Rebecca Rowan horse novel.
I actually know a third Ash at school, so
nice. Is she a cosplayer?
Yes, actually, he is.
Oh, he is. Nice. There we go. Yeah. All right. As you can see, my voice is about 2 octaves low because we were at a Taylor Swift dance party during Game 1, and we were belting those songs out. There we go. All right, let's get these plugs out of the way.
Party.
You can follow us. There we go. Follow us on. Oh man, I'm so distracted by this game. I gotta not do that. There you go. What is baseball? Never heard of it. Yes. We got cricket too.
You don't have baseball in Ontario?
Yeah, I think they do. We got cricket too. We're gonna cricket World Series. Anyway, follow us on Blue Sky at Iron Cannon. If you want Twitter, Instagram, Threads, all that fun stuff, go over to SWU because that's how Ben is on the ball with all that stuff. So go ahead there, and everything Ash is at Bejeweled Mothma, mainly Blue Sky and Instagram, from what I can tell. So
yeah, mostly
we'll pick that up again at the end. Last but not least, every Wednesday. There we go. You're right there. Every Wednesday, Chris Abbott and I review the comic books that came out that week, more or less. That is incorrect. Sorry. I forgot to update that. That was this past week. We're doing Jedi Knights number 8, Tales of the Nightlands number 2, and Afra Chaos Agent number 5, likely of 5, almost certainly of 5. So we will have mostly caught up by then. I know Boba Fett Black, White, and Red came out today, or it's coming out on Wednesday as well. So check that out. Next week we'll do that one, but this Wednesday, 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific, right here on the Underworld YouTube channel. Check that out. All right, I'm gonna watch this game, Joel, while you chat away. Kidding, I'll be listening too.
yeah, I'll do my big philosophical thing, and you'll just hear womp 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 womp, Charlie Brown style. Womp 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 womp. So this week I've been doing my philosophical musings on Star Wars, as one does, because I'm an intellectual human being. And, one of the biggest discourses I've always took issue with is this idea that the Galactic Republic of the prequels is a failure because it fell. And you're probably asking yourself, but it fell, right? Doesn't that equate failure? And I'm like, but it lasted 1,000 years. That's a long time. That's longer than most polities last, quite frankly. And it kind of got me thinking about just civilization on the whole, as one does as the world spirals into the abyss. Of like, well, does something counter the failure if it ends eventually? Right? Like, makes me or that just normal civilizational decay, as I am someone who believes that's just the natural course of life. That all civilizations decay and end over time. It's just the natural order of things. That just kind of makes me wonder, like, yeah, well, after 1,000 years, does that mean it's all for nothing? Was that all it? Like even the good times and the so times and the High Republic times, or does that mean like, well, all for nothing? Came the Empire. Who cares? Right? And don't get me wrong. I do think you can say yes, X state / civilization / I guess political entity equal failure. Like World War II Germany. Yep, yes, 1,000-year Reich only lasted for 12 and then ended in Soviet tanks in Berlin. Soviet Union, that one's always debated among people. Failure, it's not here. Did change things, always questionable. But that one for sure. But is it a failure? And and to even go to Star Wars, is the New Republic a failure because it only lasted 30 years, right? I would definitely love to know like what the historical what does Beaumont Kim think about the rebel leaders and their attempts to make new republics? What's the consensus of the academia, Beaumont Kim /
Kitchen Braves?
Yeah, Beaumont Kim and gang. What do you think? But yeah, it's just something I think about, and Matthew is someone who definitely knows about Rome and Byzantium. Are they failures because they're not around anymore, even though they took 1,000 years to end? Maybe even longer. I mean, that's just something I think about. So yeah, that's just one of those discourse things. I just feel like it just lacks the nuance of Republic became Empire, therefore it's a failure. Well, that 1,000 years meant nothing, and that's 1,000 years. I'm not even counting the old Republic, which was apparently 25,000 years. I don't want to get into that, but yeah, that's just kind of my philosophical musings for the day.
Yeah, rule Britannia. Rule. No, I'm just kidding. Well, I mean, has Rome actually? Well, you could ask the question: has Rome actually gone, or just did it diffuse into? Well, ultimately, the British Empire and the American Empire, and the Catholic Church and Western civilization as we know it today, is still the successors of the Roman Empire. So that is my Roman Empire. But sorry, in terms of the Galactic Republic, I mean, it's a similar thing of asking you, why did the Republic fall? Is it because of decay from within? Is it because Darth Sidious is taking advantage of it? Yes. Column A. Yeah, a little bit of A, a little bit of B. What about the Republic could we name as a failure that I think someone like Lena So was trying to counteract, but ended up causing anyway, was the center periphery relationship, and how much power wealth and status got consolidated into the center at the expense of the periphery. That then is a primary way in which the Republic and its democracy was given away. But I mean, yeah, well, that's a good question about life, right? Just because something ends, if a relationship ends, does it mean it was a failure? If a TV show ends, if this Rebels a failure, it's over. No, it was a huge success.
No, neither is Andor. Andor is not a failure.
Andor was a huge success too. Yeah. So, yeah, I don't know. It's a sorry. It's a question that requires a nuanced answer, I would say.
I actually want to ask this question because I'm actually glad you're here. You know, because this pertains to your girl Mon Mothma. Oh yeah. You know, I imagine.
Wait, do you like Mon Mothma?
Do you like Mon Mothma?
Who's Mon Mothma?
Anyway, sorry.
No. I'm sorry.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. I have a feeling it's going to happen when you're giving like this intellectual breakdown nuance answer I'm about to ask you. But you know, I gotta ask. You know, and I'm sure you read Rise and Fall of the Galactic Empire by Beaumont Kim, aka
several times. Yeah,
and
several times.
There's got to be that debate among Star Wars academia of is Mon Mothma a failure because ultimately she set up the New Republic and then it went kablooey 30 years later. That's kind of asking, and we kind of have those questions about U.S. presence of like, was this president a failure because ultimately then Trump happens? I mean, sometimes the answer is probably more definitively yes than no. But we won't get into real world stuff. Let's get into fake politics. That's why we're here. And I'm kind of curious, like, let's say if Lucasfilm were to tell you, hey, write the Mon Mothma biography, not the autobiography, but like you could be your own academic, make up your Star Wars name, Ashla. So, how would you kind of orientate your thesis of Mon Mothma, failure or secret success of the New Republic?
It's funny that you bring that up because that is literally my dream project.
Oh yeah, of course.
Like Mon's in-universe biography that also works as a like text in our world, very similar to the Rise and Fall of the Galactic Empire. And here's the thing, like, with like success versus failure. I think that we also look at failure in a way that is counterproductive, right? Because if you allow the fear of failure to hold you back, you are ultimately not going to achieve anything of worth. You have to go into it knowing like, hey, there is a chance we could fail, and that the fear of what could happen if we do fail is why we do the things that we do. And that's very present in the rebellion as well, right? It's like the rebellion always knew like, hey, we could all die. And that's why we keep fighting, because, at least then what we have done, if it moves the rebellion, if it pushes towards the destruction of the Empire even a little bit, it was a success in the long run, right? You could think about like all of the battles and the like opening skirmishes that the rebellion did fail with, but ultimately it ended up working out anyways, right? Because look at Hoth, right? Specifically Hoth, technically a major failing point for the rebellion and a major victory for the Empire. But in reading things like the Rise and Fall of the Galactic Empire, it looks at how the Battle of Hoth really impacted Imperial morale. It was like a false victory in that way, because everything that they set out to achieve, they also failed at, right? Because they didn't end up capturing the Falcon. They didn't get their hands on any like top rebel high command people. Like the rebellion was on its way out of Hoth, right? Because they knew, they were like, we are perpetually on the run. We can set up these bases and do all of these things, but we also know that we have to be ready to go if this happens. And so when looking at like the fall of the Republic, the rise of the Empire, the ultimate fall of the Empire, the subsequent rise of the New Republic, and the fall of the New Republic, you can feel impacts from each of those things into the next like several decades, right? Like the New Republic, you have the legacy of the Republic still standing, right? Even after the fall of the New Republic. And I think that legacy is one of those things that really determines if something like a civilization is successful or a failure when it ultimately comes to its end, whether that end is natural or forced, because we still feel the impacts of the Romans. We still feel the impacts of all of the things that empire brought with it. And so I don't think that the Roman Empire was a failure. I don't think that the Republic the British Empire. I don't think that the Republic was a failure, because so much of what the Republic was part of the Empire as well, because the Empire was like, well, we are not the Republic anymore. The Republic was this, we are the opposite of that. And so, what would the Empire have been without having admittedly, there were areas where the Republic failed. There are areas where the Empire failed, where the New Republic failed. And, but without those failures, like the corruption in the Republic and all of those things, and the Empire could be like, well, look at that. The Republic was corrupt. We as the Empire are not corrupt. If they didn't have the negatives to kind of flip, what would the Empire have been? And even though the New Republic fell, like Mon Mothma was very much the glue and the long-suffering parent that every time something went wrong, they'd be like, we should try to see if she'll come back. What would happen if we just called Mon up? Like, what would she say, right? Meanwhile, she's like, I don't want to save the galaxy again, even though I'm sure even on her deathbed, she would have been like, yeah, fighting for democracy and peace is important, even though like fighting for peace kind of sounds a little bit like an oxymoron. It still makes sense because you have to constantly be driven to upholding peace. And 30 years of relative peace is actually very good when you've just come out of 2.5, almost 3 decades of war, because the galaxy was essentially at war throughout that whole period of time. When you look at the way that the Empire was in constant conflict, they were spending so much money on military spending, training troops, and all of these things during peacetime, so much so that they were actually themselves at war constantly. And I'm not gonna say who that reminds me of, with the trillions of dollars in military spending while there are people literally suffering that they're supposed to be helping. But hey, so I think that empires and big things like that, there's always that element of failure, but there's also some success as well that we have to also look at, and the successes come from the legacy itself. Does that make sense?
Oh yeah.
No, I think that makes sense.
I've read The Rise and Fall of the Galactic Empire like 6 times now, so
I've read it half a time, so it makes sense to me.
Finish it.
That makes sense, and it kind of reinforces one of my darkest political thoughts, which I'm not going to get into right now because I won't get. I don't want to get started about debate when we have.
You don't want to get canceled.
I can tell you off screen what it is later, but if I remember. But yeah, definitely. But no, great point.
Yeah, I mean, Yoda. I mean, my favorite line in The Last Jedi: "The greatest teacher of failure is," right?
Exactly.
Looking at it, of course, the angle with Yoda, I look at it through real world Western religions, and have we failed because our pews are empty and mostly folks with different color hair than me? I don't know. Maybe. Is that a bad thing? That's the question, right? For Yoda, it wasn't a bad thing. Ultimately, it was a summons to deeper introspection, deeper reflection on on who the Jedi are supposed to be, right? That's the thing with Luke. He's embodying the very failure that in a way, right, like recusing himself from the galaxy. Not that the Jedi of the Clone Wars recused themselves from the galaxy, but they did recuse themselves from having the influence of following the light that the Republic needed at the time, and Joel, we've been back and forth. They did the best they could. They did the best they could in an impossible situation, but I wonder what Rey will think. I mean, we know she already thinks, oh yeah, it was Luke confronted fear. That is a legacy of the Jedi. There we go. Rugby and cricket and inventing new sports like hockey. And hey, we'll beat them at footy eventually. It's a good question in the sense of, well, here's the thing, right? Maybe something deserves to fail. Maybe if we need to, well, here's the thing. I mean, I'll say American dominance on the global stage deserves to fall, deserves to decline, so that the American foreign policy can become far more global and multilateral, and become a true beacon of freedom in the world again. And that would truly make America great again, is if they were able to rejoin the global community. And so the failure of the Democratic Party, because that's the thing. I mean, we can all blame in part, not exclusively, and that's another thing. Is there's always different moving parts. Yeah, we can blame Biden and the Democrats as much for Trump as anyone else, just like we can blame Valorum and the influence of money and weapon steals and whatnot on in the Senate for the rise of Palpatine. He wasn't wrong. It was mired in corruption. What he was wrong about was lying about was his willingness to change that as opposed to use it. So it's us again. All these things I really want to know. Whenever pretty much every week, Joel, we have these questions, because we have the full Skywalker saga now, as far as we know. What comes next, right? What, now that Rey and Poe and Finn and them are in a position to look back and see this whole history, with Beaumont there to help them out. What are they going to do in the present with what they have? And of course, in the moment by moment decisions they have to make, but also, the deeper questions of what sort of political community do we want to build? What sort of community of force sensitives who pursue the light and may or may not have laser swords do we want to build? Those kinds of questions that I want to see good storytellers, thoughtful storytellers start to answer. So, yeah.
Okay, well, that's it. That's all.
That's the opportunity, and failure and decline presents the opportunity for something new.
Yeah.
You guys were talking about legacy, and I have a great segue into our main topic. Unless you have something else to talk about. Should we do our main topic?
Nope, go for it.
Okay, well, you talk about legacy. Hey, I got this story about a guy named Cade Skywalker. It's called the Star Wars Legacy comic by John Ostrander. You should go read them. Okay. All right. Our main topic. So, as we pointed out at the beginning, after 2012, every Star Wars story up to 1977 to 2012 was redeemed Legends. It gets a little weird because that includes the movies too. So that gets a little, but we'll get into that later. And basically, as we have built this new universe, we have asked ourselves, what from this old universe can we bring into the new one? This sounds so DC Comics. And that's what we're here to talk about today. We're going to talk about how easy it is, and maybe not so easy it is. Is the universe that we're building today no longer have a room for some of these things anymore? Be it they concepts, characters, human-centric cults that sound like religious organizations in the real world, that sometimes I get confused by because I say the other thing instead of the other thing. So we're going to talk about that and more. So first off, as I stated earlier, let's just get our terms straight. So what is Legends? Legends is not a single continuity. It is a hodgepodge of storytelling decisions and comics, books, games, source books that were all lumped together after the 2012 reset. Everything before then, Legends, with the exception of the movies and the 6 seasons of Clone Wars. That it.
And the 4 issues of the Darth Maul comic that would get into the would have been part of this Clone Wars.
I think that happened I think that came out in 2013 though.
Sure, but it was Dark Horse, so.
Yeah.
Anyway,
okay,
whatever. Keep going. We get the gist. Anyway, keep going.
No, Son of Dathomir came out in 2014. So
okay.
So there you go. So everything after 2012, cutout date. Sure. I think, or was it 2013? I think it might be 2013. So my bad. So 2013, that's the cutoff. I think Kenobi came out around that time. So except for Clone Wars seasons 1 through 6 and the movies, that's all Legends. Everything from the weird Marvel comics to the Han Solo adventures to the Thrawn trilogy. So as fans, we kind of asked ourselves, well, can things be brought back from Legends? Can we just wholesale things, etc., etc., etc.? And the answer has been, that's like truly the answer. It can get a little weird, because you read things like Tarkin. James Luceno is clearly working at that book, even though it's canon. It's a semi-sequel to Plagueis, because so much of Plagueis comes back in that book, and James Luceno is very much operating in that kind of mental field. They got the Tim Zahn books and stuff, which he just says he's just continuing what he's been doing. So I guess the question we got to ask ourselves is like, when we're asking to bring these things back, what's the level we're bringing them back in? What kind of is like, to what extent, and also like in what medium, right? Because like I think there's a big difference between writing something in a little source book and then Grand Admiral Thrawn appearing in a live action TV show and eventually maybe a movie. That's a big scale thing. So that's why I always kind of have the tiers of like characters, story beats, and random lore. And as of now, we've mostly got a little bit of tier of random lore. And obviously the Mandoverse is working with story beat, but mostly been random lore. It has been the big character jumps that have happened the least frequently. But like random lore, like you read Rise and Fall of the Galactic Empire and talk about like how the Empire operates and like Comp Nor, ISB, all that stuff. That stuff goes back to the visual dictionaries of the 80s. Like that's been around forever. Stuff like the Rebel Alliance High Command, the Declaration of Rebellion. I think that might be canon still. I'm not sure. All that's been around in source books and stuff. So it is interesting, kind of looking at like, and then like planet names like Korriban, Morabon, Mon Cala / Dak. Kashyyyk, home of the Wookiees. That goes back to the holiday special, so never mind.
But it was in Clone Wars too, so.
Yeah.
I mean that goes back to I think it was called Kashyyyk in the holiday special, but Kashyyyk appeared in like the Thrawn trilogy in more serious storytelling.
Oh, also Revenge of the Sith.
And Knights of the Old Republic before, back in 2001. So Kashyyyk's been like a staple of Star Wars lore forever. So there's that and other things too. But yeah, it's really interesting. So Matthew, how about you? You're the one who was interested in this topic. How about you say your piece while I think of where to go next?
Well, so I mean, you make a good point about the different scale. A lot of fans were clamor for this character or that character. I mean, even though I hadn't read the Zahn trilogy, the 90s trilogy yet. I mean, I still haven't read. I read the graphic novel, but adaptation, but I hadn't read any of it yet. I'm still watching. I'm watching Celebration Chicago. Was it Chicago or Orlando? One of those. It was Orlando, or wherever he was announced. Maybe it was the first one. I forget. Whatever one where he was announced. I'm losing my mind. With that panel with the organ, whatever it was, and then I immediately go and read the comic adaptation of the original novels.
I have those somewhere. I think
I got them on digital eventually, but and again, it's a tricky question. I mean, another thing is what kind of changes do you make to the character it can it serve as a way to appeal to folks who, I mean, obviously love these characters. They are worthy, they're rightly beloved for the most part. I mean, Thrawn is definitely, Mara Jade and all these other
Anything in the
characters.
original Thrawn trilogy was always popular. They were kind of a cut above the rest.
And so, way of saying, look, fans, we hear you. We know these stories are there and they're good, and these characters are very fully fleshed out and developed. What was interesting with Thrawn, though, is they bring him in a good 9 years early.
2017. So
yeah. Well, no, sorry, as in 9 years early from when he shows up in Legends.
I think so.
Yeah, or whatever it was. Yeah.
Which I rather
so
we can do that later.
Joe Otani gets another home run. Oh well.
It's 2-0 for the freaking Dodgers right now.
Yeah.
I hope you're happy, Joel.
I am happy.
The solo home runs. Anyway. Yeah, and but it's tough because I mean it's a good example of how creatives, I mean, the reason they're the ones who have the jobs and fans don't, quite frankly. This is gonna be some kind of harsh is
we ain't working on Lucasfilm. There's probably a good reason.
Yeah, because we just want kind of, I mean, it could be the ultimate fan service in the worst kind of way, right? You just throw someone in there. No, it has to make sense. It has to make sense with the world. So if the Salamiri, I mean, you kind of have sort of versions of what they do later on. But for George, who's like, no, thank you. not happening. Just for a very kind of technical force reason. So they have to figure out a different, but it made Thrawn more interesting, I think. It made Thrawn to say, oh, he's not a force sensitive baddie, he's a strategic baddie. Right. So yeah, but it's tricky because people are like, that's not the character. And if they write it well, do it well, I mean, I think Thrawn is more successful on screen than on paper, because on paper he's not really a character, he's more of a marketing device. But again, that's another harsh thing to say, but all the characters around him are more important and more interesting. But whereas as a villain, that's interesting, staying true to what Zahn did. He originally as a great villain to main character rebel heroes, works out really well as a nice contrast to Vader and Palpatine. So yeah, it's those kinds of deeper questions that they have to ask. And I'm sure they have all these story treatments and ideas, possibilities of what to do with Revan, what to do with even the Rakata or something, and the group I brought up was the Pius Dea. Those are the ones I want.
I always call it the Pius D.
No, it would be Dea as the feminine form of God.
Okay. Right? Maybe I'm pronouncing it wrong.
Or goddess, basically means goddess in Latin. These different groups. So yeah, we'll get into some examples, but yeah, it's just interesting. It's an interesting exercise in kind of the challenge for fans to think in terms of story and character, and not simply in terms of lore. Indeed. And that's always the challenge.
So Ash, I'm gonna toss the kind of the basic question to you in terms of making sense of my rambles. Because you bullied your way into the podcast today.
Did I?
No, you're kidding. I'm kidding. But you were definitely surprised. But yeah, I'm kind of curious.
But a welcome one, to be sure.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah.
But I'm just kind of curious. Like, you obviously you probably are like me, a little bit more Legends. I mean, you do the Mothma project, so you definitely gotta know some Legends if you're gonna do a full breakdown on her character. So I'm kind of curious, just like what your thoughts on just this general topic is as we get kind of into the nitty gritty of all of it.
Yeah, so like I have been a Star Wars fan basically my whole life. I was raised on this franchise, so like once the Disney acquisition happened, I was like, oh cool, more Star Wars stories. I was a kid, I was like 14 or something when the acquisition happened, But for me, like growing up with these like legend stories and having like rediscovered a lot of them in the last few years, one of me getting like back into Star Wars with adult money, which is possibly the worst thing you can do for the health of your bank account, is being a nerd with adult money. Even though it's awesome because you're like, I have adult money, I can buy this, and it's like, oh no, that's a bad idea.
Food eats food, right?
Truly, and and so there's a lot that goes into, like, for me, balancing like canon and legends, and I'm like, okay, if there is something that has been written and it was like in legends and there is nothing in canon to directly contradict it, that could still very much be in play. Or I could look at it, you know, from a certain point of view and be like, oh, these have different like narrators, different perspectives. Maybe this is just, you know, different people working through their experiences, right? And in working on the Mon Mothma project, the legends section is insane. And it was always going to be that way. She is in a lot of legends, and so much of the character that we have now is based off of who she was in legends, right? And, you know, even things that have come up in the last few years that are super important, like her daughter Leda existed in legends and now she's canon. And you know,
which in legends? I never heard of that.
She I don't even remember her role. Her name is Leda, right? Oh, wow. And but I don't remember how much of a role she played because I haven't quite got to that section, because there's a whole part of the Mon project that is completely centered on her and her family in canon and legends. So I'm like trying to like move things around to try to be like, okay, I'm just focused on you for now, and then I'll worry about your family.
I hate to ask, is it in story material or is it in like source book stuff?
I think it is in story material, but I don't like. I think her role is like very, very small. But also in Legends, like Mon has a son who died at the Battle of Hoth, and the way that it works in that story is she doesn't know where her son is for like an entire year, and right before she gives the address to the rebels in Return of the Jedi, she finds out that her son died like a year ago, and that's how that like fits in. And canon looks at it a little bit differently because we have No Contingency by Fran Wild, but it works, right? And of course we know she doesn't have a son in canon. Apparently there is a way that they could achieve it,
as far as we know.
it wouldn't go very well, but like the idea that Mon has a family is something that comes from legends. And so when people, like during the first season of Andor, when people were like, why would I care about Mon Mothma's family? I'm like, because it's actually important to understand her day-to-day life and why she makes the choices that she does while she's working with the Empire. And like a lot of the post Return of the Jedi stories from Legends, actually, like we are seeing them kind of bleed in with the story beats, especially with what Dave Filoni is doing with the Mandoverse, right?
Mandoverse is just all of the 90s Star Wars.
Yeah, exactly. And just Dave Filoni's actually a really nice guy, and you cannot pay me to hate him. He is he is a delight as a human being and just a very kind individual.
Oh, I'm sure.
He is so nice.
Something with a Pokemon store or something.
Yeah, Pokemon store in Japan. But like, you know, again, like if there's nothing directly contradicting it in canon, then I'm like, this is still there's potential here. And I really like that. And I think like while it's important for obviously people who are creating Star Wars stories now to understand and be familiar with canon, I think it also does benefit some of them to be able to have like a little bit of Legends knowledge as well. But you do also need to find the balance, because if the Force, your Star Wars project, is out of balance, it becomes there's too many contradictions here to possibly edit out, and it doesn't make any sense. Or on the other side, this is way too much fan service, and even when I'm the fan being serviced, there is there is such thing as too much of a good thing. And so, it's striking that balance that's very difficult. And I think we are in the coming years going to see some more of those Legends characters bleed into the canon universe, because we did also get Pelion in The Mandalorian. And I remember I was like, is that who that is? And I was freaking out. Yeah. And like,
did we get him in Rebels?
No, yeah, he mentions once. He gets mentioned once, and then you hear like a voice saying, "Oh, whales are coming."
Right.
Yeah, whales are coming. Because this is Star Trek now, right? And it's just
whales.
Like we know that Darth Bane exists in canon. We know that Darth Plagueis exists in canon. But
Bane
what
and
are their
Plagueis are a little
stories?
bit more weirder for me, but I'll get into that later.
But like, what are their stories going to look like? And I would love to see like canon versions of some of these stories. And in some cases, I'm like, I'd really like it to be the writer who wrote it in Legends. In other cases, I'm like, I'd like to see this person work with it. Like Darth Bane, I think that I would be more interested in a like Darth Zana story, because I just really think that Cavan Scott would eat that. And it would be so good.
Yeah.
And would it be devastating? 100%. Like, she is a Sith Lord. The rule of two does exist. She will be murdered by her apprentice, right? And I think that the way that the people who were working on these legend stories, the way that they could go off of such a small amount of information and create the awesomeness that they did is astounding. Like, you will never hear me, like, sometimes I'll be like, damn, that legend story was weird. I can also point to canon stories and be like, damn, that was weird. But it's still wonderful, because it's like, wow, you made that in your head, and now it's out in the world. And it's awesome. I love artists across the board. They're the best.
No, I want
to say AP5 the musical.
So real.
Love it.
So I'll just say, can you bring up Plagueis and Bane? They're interesting, and I'm gonna be honest. I feel like a lot of what we're gonna talk about is just adaptation, which is just you can apply to anything. You can apply to original novels, right? Adapting Lord of the Rings, other book series, etc., etc. And what's interesting about kind of those characters, especially in their regards to legends and whatnot, is they're not Legends characters. George made them up. George said there was a guy named Darth Bane. He started the rule of two. Plagueis. Yeah, that was Palpatine's master. I don't know what else. That's just it. And this kind of gets, and this is where it gets really interesting, and kind of if Lucas was going to do Darth Bane, I don't think he would give a shit. I think he would just do his own thing. Darth Bane, and he got his apprentice was named Darcy Meatyhead, and then Darth Meatyhead,
Darth Meathead.
Darth Meathead, and Plagueis was going to be an old guy with the plague. I don't know. Something
probably.
I don't know.
I mean, Darth Sidious was Insidious.
Yeah,
Darth Vader was the father. So clearly Plagueis was. I mean, Luceno gave him a plague. The plague of or he spread the plague of economic greed. But anyway,
I mean, that's true. But because we're kind of in this interesting place now, well, George is gone, and the people who are making Star Wars, or at least some of the nerds, are a little more interested in that stuff. That's why when Plagueis shows up in Acolyte for 5 seconds, he looks very Munish, and was going to be the Mune that we all know and love. So they're definitely adhering a little bit more to that. So it is kind of the question of like, well, what is the core of this character? And then I think, to me, this is where adaptation, I think, always comes, especially in comic books, where there's always so much contradicting lore. And I'm going to bring up comic books a lot, because this is where I think Star Wars and this Legends-to-Canon thing kind of is the closest. Is like, what's the core of this character? And ultimately, what truly matters, right? So, like, Batman and Superman have a lot of lore that just contradicts over the centuries if you're just
I know.
reading various comics, right?
I know.
Whether it's like
Talking with Detective Comics again. Sorry.
I mean, same with Marvel to some extent. Marvel, Marvel's never fully reboots. They just keep changing things.
True.
I'm sure I can find something, but I know Batman and Superman a lot better. So they keep changing, like their power set changes, and it's like, sometimes. But then don't forget that one time when Alfred became a villain, and then he became a glue man, and it's like, well, when we reboot Batman into a new universe, we just ignore that part. But, when we reboot, whenever we reboot Batman, I'm gonna use Batman because I like Batman. They always just keep, what's the core of Batman's character? Bruce Wayne, parents died, butler, child who wants to fight crime and protect the kids. Especially if you got a very good Batman writer who's humane, who just wants to do good, and he dresses up like a bat, but he's probably the most sane man alive. He's got a good heart. And then all the other stuff is like, window dressing, right?
At
the end I guess Spider-Man's a similar.
Oh yeah,
like all the Spider-Man films.
Great power, great responsibility. Uncle Ben dies. Spider powers. Green Goblin being related or not, who knows? But that's the point. So I think a lot of when we're bringing in, especially characters from Legends to canon, the question is, okay, what is the core of this character, and then what kind of like more details can we bring in? So if we brought in, well, we did bring in Darth Bane because he's in Clone Wars. They kept a lot of the core of that character, which is just he's the Sith Lord who started the rule of two. That's kind of it. I know the Bane books go more into like the deeper philosophy and stuff, but in terms of what the core of that character was for George, it's the Sith killed each other. They were victims of their own greed. And I'm like, no more thousands of Sith Lords. We're just going to have two of you guys. And it created a lasting chain of events that goes to this day for some reason. I still think the rule of two is kind of dumb inherently. And
for some reason.
Somehow.
It is.
Right?
Yeah. It's dumb and it works.
It's dumb and it works. And I'm surprised like Sith Lords didn't both explode in a plane one day. Like, whoops. Sorry. But that is ultimately the core of that character of what we know so far. All the details of like what was the war he fought in, what was his position in life. We don't know that stuff yet.
Yeah.
There's a lot of
we don't need to.
Not yet anyway, but if they want to flesh it out, somebody wants to flesh it out, go ahead. But that is the key. So that's why I think Thrawn came first out of a lot of the characters, because I think Thrawn, I'm going to say this, I think Thrawn is actually really easy to translate. Ultimately, what is he? He is a smart Imperial who uses art to defeat his enemies. He kind of treats his, I think we got more sports people. He uses his, respects his troops a bit more than the average Imperial, and he's blue. That's it. That's all you need to get the character. And they did it in Rebels. They do it in Ahsoka. He's not that complicated, people. All the Chiss, Grisk, unknown region stuff, that's window dressing. You don't really need it. It's great for what Tim Zahn wants to do, but in the terms of core of that character, that's easier. So now we're gonna get into like the more controversial questions of like, where does Mara Jade fit into something like this? Another popular one. Because I do think if characters are going to come back, it's going to be the popular ones that are like, I don't want to, mainstream among the fandom. Because ultimately, let's face it, most general audiences are not going to know who. Most general audiences probably would not know. But in terms of the fandom circles, it's going to probably be the mainstream popular ones like Thrawn, Mara Jade, and Revan, who probably come back first before, I don't know, Zek from Young Jedi Knights stories.
Right.
You should see who Zek is. He's funny. But anyway, because
I don't know. Hold on. Sorry, go. I'll let you finish, and then I'll give a counterexample. But go ahead.
So I mean, so it's like, okay, Mara Jade. What is the core of her character, right? Obviously, she starts out as the former Imperial zealot who is pissed off at Luke Skywalker because he killed the Emperor and she wants revenge against him, and now she's a pirate. And then because of the whole Thrawn campaign story, she's like, oh, maybe the Emperor wasn't a great guy. Maybe my whole kill Luke Skywalker obsession needs to come to an end. So that's the core. So that's where she starts. but this, and, you know, I'm going to try to sound careful because I don't want to be like Mara Jade needs a man kind of a situation. But I do hate to say it, and this is kind of like my controversial opinion of. I do think that to a good chunk of that fan base and a good chunk of why people like Mara Jade and they do like her storyline. They do like the storyline of this former Imperial that had really good chemistry with Luke in the Thrawn comics and the Thrawn books in the original Thrawn novel. Eventually had more adventures with Luke over time, and then it's like they tied the knot in that when Luke and Mara Jade are the equivalent of Peter Parker and Mary Jade from from Spider-Man.
So that's why she's called that.
They're the maybe I don't know. They're both redheads.
Both redheads.
And then Luke kind of has that kind of naive Peter Parker Lois. He's the Luke Superman. She's the Lois Lane. They're the OTP of Legends for a lot of people. But
and she could kick his ass just like Lois can kick Clark's.
Exactly.
Wow.
Exactly.
Only Clark lets him.
Exactly. But
simp. He's a simp.
Fair.
But this is
no,
where
Mark could definitely whoop Luke. I'm sure. Anyway, sorry.
Yeah. But this is the question of the rules of the current canon universe have changed a little bit, and at least when it comes to Luke, I don't know if they're going to be with anybody else, but at least when it comes to Luke, the powers that be at Lucasfilm are very adherent, at least to the idea that Luke's not supposed to get married, because George didn't really like that idea for some reason. And while I don't necessarily think that necessarily negates Mara Jade from coming back, you do, and even necessarily having that storyline of Luke redeeming her in a way or showing her the light.
Yeah.
It is also kind of the question of, she was so tied to Luke in the original story. She she dies before Luke lives in later stuff, and they had a kid named Ben Skywalker. They got the Ben. That while I don't necessarily think it would be it's like, do you want to go start from that original place, and then maybe she just goes off and does her own thing, which fine. I mean, characters can do that. I mean, this is a weird example, but one I'm going to use because it's the only one I could think of. We're seeing a lot of I'm going to compare Harley Quinn to Mara Jade. I'm so sorry, but we're seeing a lot of more Harley Quinn stuff, more away from her tied to the Joker. So it is possible that is something you can do. So I think
I want to jump in quickly.
I'm just gonna say, but that is something you can do. It's like you start in your normal place, and then maybe in canon she's more independent of Luke and just kind of goes off on her adventure.
Yeah.
But then I'll just have one more caveat, and then I'll let you go. But we've also seen Luke do this with other, especially female characters, of like, hey, let's see the light. Maybe you don't have to be a bad person, like kind of like with Aphra, and then kind of like with some other characters. So it's like, are we just repeating the same story again?
Yeah, I mean that kind of the whole Battlefront 2 and his role in that, right?
I think more Shadow to the Stiffs, but yeah.
Well, that too. But I mean, you raised a really interesting thought, and Ash, you got me thinking with the Xana idea. That could be. So the original Thrawn trilogy, that was early 90s. It's now 2025. The world has changed dramatically, and ideas about gender and orientation and ethnicity and the reality of global superpowers and whatnot. Just a lot of different things would say, let's actually tell a different kind of story, and so that, I mean, I think there's a real opportunity there. And that's the thing. One thing that the 2015 reset or 2012, whatever it was, reset allows for is to say, Mara Jade doesn't want to get with Luke because she wants to get with Aphra. Why not, right? Or Xana, it maybe here's a story idea. History records Bane as founding the role of 2, but what if it was really Xana? What if she was the ultimate baddie and then history papered her over because she's a woman? There's also there's the glass ceiling, there's also the glass floor. And there's an opportunity for her to shadow the glass floor. And so that kind of telling bringing the character in. You can still ask what the core is. Revan being non-binary, for example. There's still good.
Actually, my hot take: Revan doesn't have a core. Revan's a nothing. That's my hot.
Well, that's another. Or you can give them a core. So Mara Jade and Xana could still be similar enough, but you could, risk pissing off some fans who probably aren't paying attention anymore anyway.
And you have to ask yourself, the people in power who like these characters, how true do they want to stay to the original story as best they can?
Right.
Because, Dave definitely added his own spin to the Thrawn story in the Mandoverse and Ahsoka for sure.
Yeah.
But it's still pretty similar. I mean, Thrawn's teaming up with dark forces, and he's gonna reunite the remnants of the Empire and take on the New Republic and fight Akbar.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
And I think you bring up a very interesting point about Xana being, maybe she was the one to first, actually, conceptualize the rule of two, because the rule of two requires there to be two of them. It requires there to be a master and an apprentice. A master on an apprentice on there couldn't do that. Xana's the first one to go through Xana's the first one to go through the apprentice to master cycle in it, which means that yes, it is her that did it, because she was one, not just be like a one-off thing. You know what I mean? Because she could have been like, I'm actually good for of little, and right,
yeah.
But how work, because Palpatine is one of those Sith Lords that was like, two is more like a two, and I'm gonna play fast and loose with because I'm better than everybody else, right? His ego and his narcissism basically made it. They're not good at following the rule of two. It's so bad.
Even in
it's
Legends,
so
they were never would. If you ever read the Darth Bane book, Xana had an apprentice ready to go, and they're like, Darth
she's
Bane looking for another.
Plagueis had Venomous on the side too,
Yeah.
No,
and then when you also
Venomous, that was Tenebrae, not Tenebrae,
Tenebrae, same.
Plagueis' master had Tenebrae on the side.
Yeah, and then you also take a look at things like the Inquisitorius, which yes, they weren't Sith, but they were trained in very similar roles, right? And if you just introduce the concept of the Sith to an average person of the galaxy and you explained the Inquisitorius to them, they'd probably be like, you just told me the exact same thing twice. They probably wouldn't understand because they're not up to date on the lore, even though they live in that world. But yeah, it's so fascinating. Anyways, Darth Xana is probably one of my absolute favorite Legends characters, and I need to get back to work on my cape for her at some point.
And do a Xana project. Interrupt the Mothma project. I'm kidding. Don't do
the
that.
Xana project would be super short at this point in
time. That's true.
Yeah.
She's only in those books and that kind of
Edmonton's Drew Carpathian.
It's true. I mean, this is another thing. You brought up the Inquisitorius, and I remember there was rumor of Galen Merrick going to be an Inquisitor. And that's what to me is one of those changes where it's I gotta be honest, at that point just don't use Galen Merrick, because there's not much to Galen Merrick. He's just a power fantasy that's Vader's apprentice for a very very fun but not that really deep game. It also retroactively retcons some stuff about the founding of the rebellion and doesn't at the same time. But that's not besides the point. And it's the whole cool cook of Galen Merrick is he's Vader's apprentice who's Dragon Ball Z powers. And it's if he's not gonna be Vader's apprentice and he's not gonna have Dragon Ball Z powers, what kind of is the point anymore of Galen Merrick? I just feel he just doesn't belong in the world.
To give what's his face a live action role.
I mean, I want Sam Witwer to have a live action role, and I think he might have one. If I'm still hoping the son shows up. You can
true.
I'm just saying. From Mortis. But that's beside the point.
Mhm.
Yeah. It's kind of also. I mean, there's other characters like Kyle Katarn and Jade Ors, who's like, I could see them coming back, but it's also like I just don't see them having major roles in things anymore. I mean, it's kind of like Corran Horn and Obi-Wan Kenobi. It's like he's there in the background, just like name drop, but like that's just for the that's like much more of a wink and a nod than oh my god, Corran Horn's back. The storyline continues. So and also there are certain characters who've kind of taken Kyle's role, like Andor with the Death Star, I guess, and that whole storyline. So there's that. And then finally, I'll get to the second. I'll get to the one that kind of inspired all this. Obviously, Revan, because Revan's an interesting one. Because Revan's got all this lore and stuff from the Old Republic, but Revan's core is that he's the player. You are Revan. You get to decide his gender, or their gender. My bad. Their gender, their choices, light side, dark side. They don't have a personality. You are their personality. You want to play Revan as a jerk? Make him a jerk. You want to play Revan as the nicest guy you've ever, or gal, or non-binary pal you've ever met? Do that.
Yeah.
There is no, at least with Thrawn, there's like a personality. He's kind of cold. He's evil, logical. He can be ruthless to his enemies, and not as nasty to his friends. That is the core of Thrawn. Mara Jade even has like she's the fiery redhead trope, to some extent, right? Kyle Katarn. Han Solo again. Han Solo, but maybe as a Jedi. Those are kind of their personality archetypes.
Yeah.
Revan doesn't have that. Revan is whatever Old Republic gave, kind of made him an NPC, but even then it's like I don't remember much about Revan. So I mean, I feel like if you were to do a story about Revan, I think because this is all I'm going to go on my rant because this is like all over the place, but I'm gonna go on my little rant for a second of like one of my big problems with so many people who always talk about like they should do Old Republic is like, guys, general audiences aren't gonna look at a sign that says Revan and go like Revan, right? That's not how the pitch is gonna go down. Like pitches are weird, don't get me wrong, as we all learned in the last couple of weeks, but like I doubt like even the weirdest situation where the Disney gang and the Lucasfilm gang are just going to go together and just go like, Revan, big bag of money, Revan. I mean, I would.
Bob Iger's like, who?
I mean, yeah. But you would have to, as much as I think people want Revan, and I do think Revan will probably be a thing eventually. I mean, he technically is canon because of Shadow of the Sith. He's in the universe somewhere. I don't necessarily know if that story is just going to get adapted into something, or at least wholesale, as you think it will, as some fans think it will. And also, you would have to just make up a character from the ground up, and even then, that takes away to what people liked about Revan in the first place, which was you, the player, are the character. You are Revan. So how do you adapt that a character where the idea is, well, you're the character, It's not even like Kingdom Hearts, one of my favorite games, where like at least Sora has a personality, even though I am the player. Revan is an empty bag of whoever the player is. So I think you would have to make new characters and maybe like have it be like the aura around this character, and that would like you would almost have to keep them at a distance if you don't want to, unless you wanted to give them a defining character and But even then, it's like, well, then you define the character, and then you sort of take away what the core of that character was, which was you are the player. You and the player are the same.
Here's my question, though: wasn't there a kind of defining storyline about being a Jedi and then being brainwashed and joining the Sith and becoming an Emperor and then becoming the Mandalore and all that, then coming back to the Jedi and being kind of the split thing? Wasn't there's at least some basics of a storyline?
Storyline, yes, but not a character, and that's important if you're bringing back
that is an important difference. I do wonder though if, I mean, that even helps my whole wild theory about Tar Vizsla. I know, I guess that would kind of.
Well, no. Well, Revan's storyline is he's
I know it's kind of a male
who fell to the dark side, became a Sith Lord, Then his apprentice turned on him. Lost his memory. They lost their memory, and then they have a big adventure where they have to defeat the evil empire and the Dark Lord. And they rediscover, oh wait, I was the original bad guy for like half a second. Oh my god! And now I have to fight my apprentice and either reclaim my title as the Dark Lord or right the wrongs of my past.
I mean, I don't know. Like, I could be. I think it could still work, right? You could say history, Mandalorian history remembers this character. Jedi history remembers this.
Yeah, I think that's still a bad idea, quite frankly. Because I think he's a Jedi. He's not a Mandalorian. He fought the Mandalorian. That's the whole point. He's an enemy of the Mandalorian.
Oh, okay. I didn't catch that part. I thought he becomes the Mandalore.
No, he never becomes the Mandalore. He fights them.
Never mind. Never mind.
but I think again,
what do I know about Legends? Come on.
I know, right?
I'm here to learn.
A Jedi becoming the Mandalore? Okay, that just feels like what they're going to end up doing with Grogu.
But isn't that what Tar Vizsla does?
No, he's no. I guess so, but
yeah, he's Jedi.
He's not Revan, but Revan's
takes the Darksaber, becomes the Mandalore.
Yeah. Well, let's make new. Well, at that point, I just say make a new character.
Porky.
You know, exactly. Exactly.
No, I mean actually Tar Vizsla in the prehistory is what I'm getting.
Yeah. But to kind of go back to Revan for a second.
Sure.
Yeah, you got that. It's a great storyline. Don't get me wrong. I love that storyline. It's really cool. It's what makes KOTOR great.
Yeah.
The storyline is not a character, right?
No, that is a great point.
And that is at least Thrawn has a storyline and a character trait, right?
Yeah.
That is his thing. Mara Jade has a storyline and kind of a character. You know, he believed in the Empire and the Emperor. She's a fiery, very angry redhead, and then she's kind of like, oh, maybe this Luke guy's not maybe this farm boy is not such a bad guy after all, I guess, and stupid smile. So that is why I've always been kind of like, well, how do you do this with Revan?
Yeah.
Where unless you want, right? Where at least, even Mothma's got a character. Even if we're just going with just Return of the Jedi, if we just keep that as the only text that matters, I'm not saying it is, but let's just say we are, calm, collective, and clearly in charge. There you go.
Needs no introduction.
Exactly.
Which is nice because her name isn't spoken on screen in live action until 2022.
I know, right? So
39 years after her introduction.
So that's why with Revan, I've always been more cautious because, like, the minute you give them a character, you're almost changing them in such a dramatic way. I almost am like, that's the mystique.
So here's another thought. Then is it's still a type of bringing Legends to canon, right?
Yeah, it's
taking an aspect of this. But I mean that's the thing. Whenever you do that, you will have to add a lot. I mean Eli Vanto adds a lot to Thrawn. Alias adds a lot to Thrawn. Aralani adds a lot to Thrawn. Seeing him as a hero, we could argue how successful that is, but it was, or as the character we're cheering for in these books.
Yeah.
So. Yeah, and it's similar kind of thing of bringing him so much earlier in the timeline. I mean, again, that's still a change. It's not the same kind of change you're talking about with Revan. I get that.
But is it a change to the core of this character is the question. And that would be like if Thrawn showed up and he was like a cackling madman just shooting up, blasting up. Like that's, you can call him Thrawn, but if he's like just sadistically shooting people left, right, and center. And
so I guess is the question why you're bringing this up in the sense of it was easier and clearer to do with Thrawn. With Revan, it's maybe not as advisable or to be good, or are you really doing it if all you're doing is giving that mask and that basic storyline that's a different character kind of thing?
A little bit, because I think you can add so much to, like, again, we're gonna use Batman, but if you keep the kind of the stoic personality the same thing, you can say, Batman had 3 triplets. that doesn't really change who Batman is at his core.
Should Batman ever have 3 triplets?
Well, I guess you count Robins.
Like
all the Robins.
3 sets. Well, I mean, like most of them are adopted, but then we've got Damien, who's like biologically his.
Seriously.
Oh God, I don't even want to get into the intricacies of Damien and his conception.
Yeah.
And whether or not it was Talia hot, also evil. You can think someone's hot and still hate them. Case in point, Talia al Ghul. Like,
right. But I guess actually, I'll toss this to you. Like, where do you kind of stand in like this idea of like, there's the core of the character, and then there's kind of like the stories they're in, the lore, and kind of like how much do you add before you're either making a new character, or is it like, you know, if I wanted to say Mon Mothma had triplets, she could, hey, push it. I could see.
She doesn't want that. She doesn't want one in canon.
I know, but let's say if she did, you know, I don't think that changes who Mon Mothma is as a person or the core of that character. Just a different little lore fact.
Yeah, it would. I think personally, I think that you can also look at it as like, is it changing a character? Is it changing their storyline? Is it changing their priorities? And like, what makes them fight for what they for whatever it is that they believe in? What makes them, you know, not want to take up arms against the Empire, or you know,
I'm fighting for my triplets.
You know, right? Like, because part of Bale's storyline, for example, is that like he's like, yeah, we effed up, and I've got to fix this so that my daughter's generation doesn't have to, right? And then ultimately Leia ends up being one of the leaders of the Alliance, which is very crucial to her because, you know, she watched her parents in very small ways in the beginning stand up against the Empire, but her priorities were always the same across canon and Legends, the same with Mon, right? Even when you look at, you know, her as a person, even in her family life, it doesn't change. Like, being a wife and being a mother did not change her priorities at all, right? If anything, her being a mother gave her opportunities to fulfill her priorities, which was freeing the galaxy of the Empire, because, you know, that's ultimately the cards that she was dealt. That's how the dice ended up rolling, right? Is that she was put into this position where it's like, this is my only option. And what would it have looked like if she didn't have that option in canon? And, you know,
I was going to say, you use priorities, you know, I think this is what combines the Thrawns that we see, be it heroic and villainous. His priority is always, I want the galaxy to have security. And I think he truly doesn't believe that. But, you know, be it, you know, he can add his reasonings of, I'm stopping the Grisk or the unknown region's terrors or whatever. But that's Thrawn's priority. You know, that's the same even in Ahsoka, where it's like, it's for the Empire. It's security, not galaxy. And, you know, it's either going to be depicted as maybe something a bit more noble in those Thrawn books, or in the Ahsoka, where I think is the better depiction of, he still thinks the Empire is the best course of action, and working with these evil, well, I don't know if they're evil. Well, they're kind of sinister. These questionable great mothers and their night sister, maybe zombies, maybe not army, with the best path forward. You know, that's still Thrawn. You know, his motives and all.
Yeah, and like part of that is like, you know, part of the reason why he wants to protect the Ascendancy, in my mind, is that he sees, like, they're his people, like, directly, right? In the case of wanting to protect the people of, say, the 7th Fleet, it's in that same vein. He's like, these are directly my people. They are, like, they look up to me, right? Like, Thrawn is one of those leaders in the Imperial hierarchy that is beloved by his crew, right?
That's why they're all chanting Thrawn.
Yeah,
exactly.
Thrawn. We love this guy,
right? And so getting back to the galaxy in Ahsoka would help serve those that were left from the 7th Fleet that weren't taken to Peridia.
I gotta get back my boyfriend Pelion.
Yeah, Peridia.
Right. And so, you know, like, it's, in some ways I'm like, yeah, him serving the Empire in this way is a means to an end. It's Like, that's how he sees it. His priority is protecting his people and serving his people the way that they have served him, right? Because he has not been let down by characters like Karen Farrow, Eli Vanto, like the crew that he's with in the 20s. Pelion, the various crews that he's with, he's not let down by them. So why would he let them down? Like, Thrawn is very loyal as a character and very loyal as a leader. And that's one of the reasons why. Because it's like, yeah, sure, he's charismatic to a degree. There are more charismatic leaders out there, but he's charismatic in a different way.
Yeah.
Right.
You know, it's funny. You bring that up. You know, it's funny. I was rewatching Ahsoka recently. There were two moments that really hammer this home. One is when he's getting the troops ready to, prepare for Ahsoka's arrival, and he asks Morgan Elpis, "Those are volunteers. They've been made aware. They have. They'll do it for the honor of you, sir." Like, these are volunteer soldiers, knowing they're probably going to die and become zombies, but they're like, "We love Thrawn, so we're going to become zombies for you, man." And then there's another moment, very good acting, in the moment where Morgan Elpis is dead, and Thrawn just kind of had this look of like, "He's their part." Like, he's not, he's cold enough to not be like, "My best friend Morgan," he's not going to cry about it, but he
wasn't like me.
But he's definitely like, "Oh, damn, she was a good asset. She would have been helpful." Oh,
so I think the question there still is, if you, how am I framing this? I definitely think thinking about Revan versus Thrawn, right? If we bring Revan in, basic story, but make a good character out of them, there's still sources of inspiration and ideas they can delve into. Is it more interesting? Is it more compelling? Is it more...
I might have a better example.
Well, let me finish my thought. Is it more... I don't know what the word is, because they're writing fiction. They can do what they want. But, like, is it more appropriate, I guess, if you will, to do what they did with Thrawn, keep the character the same, but change the circumstances, or say what they do with Revan, which is create a whole new character out of these ideas, and there's also different kinds of ideas. I don't know. I think both. I mean, maybe you're not disagreeing with this, but maybe I think both could be interesting. They're both different exercises in character building, storytelling, and asking, okay, what is it about Thrawn that is compelling? Clearly, there's something else. I mean, I think there is something maybe about Revan. Maybe, yeah, and I get what you're saying. That the self-insert is the thing about Revan. There's still ways of doing that in canon stories. I do agree that just having a kind of blank slate self-insert wouldn't be a good enough character. You're gonna have to have more. Oddly enough, I do find Thrawn to be a bit of a blank character. Oddly enough, I mean, that's why he works better as a villain, because he's a blank character for the heroes to work against, versus as a main character. I mean, he's good for the other characters around to get at, but yeah, I mean, I think it's because there's a resource of character, but the resource of lore and ideas. I mean, even thinking about those lore ideas, like the Rakata, like the Paistea, like these periods of Jedi chancellors, just the concept of it. You don't have to hew so closely, but maybe there are some good ideas and interesting reasons why there were these Jedi chancellors. Maybe some interesting reasons why the Rasan reformations happened the way they did.
Yeah.
And came out of that. We know that there's some sort of canon version of 1,000 years before. There's this great democratic reform and groundswell of reform, and the reasons for that probably didn't have to do with Malachor or something, or who knows what. But yeah, I think, I mean, this is going to be a kind of a banal statement, but at the end of the day, it all comes down to, we always say this, it comes down to execution. Who's going to tell the right story? I guess I'm more interested, frankly, in what they change, what they do differently. Just because, again, I didn't read Legends. I'm not as attached to these characters. I hope the folks the fans that are attached to these characters more are able to, yes, appreciate what's the same, but also appreciate what's different. And yeah, we know there are going to be folks who are up in arms about that's not how Drew Karpyshyn wrote Xana. That's not what happened. But then, is it an interesting change? Is it an interesting thing? So,
I get your point, and I think, like, I mean, I do even think there
first
are
time for everything. No, I'm just kidding.
I do think there are some changes to Thrawn, but
yeah,
maybe not in terms of changing him, just changing how we perceive things. So,
Yeah.
like, one thing I think that Dave has done, it's been Rebels especially, and hopefully maybe a little bit more in Ahsoka season 2, is I love how Dave has handled the art thing way better than Tim Zahn does. Because we keep the art thing. The art thing in the book, in the original books, is way too oversimplified and almost overpowered. To like, that's a Mon Cala art. I now understand all Mon Cala. I can defeat Akbar. He does.
Yeah.
It's a little too much. Whereas in Rebels, especially Rebels, Thrawn is treated, and this is where I do think Thrawn's the villain, is very treated like someone once said, Thrawn is like a British art collector going to other countries and just collecting art, or maybe like Gearing in World War II with the French, appropriating art, where it's like, like this Twilight art is very, very appropriate. A lovely Harrison Duel. Do not fear; it will have a great this ancient Twi'lek heritage will have a great place in my collection.
In his British museum.
And that's the thing about Thrawn to always remember. Thrawn's still a racist. He's just racist against non-chiss. So, like here's another great example where it's like, like I'm sure like, oh yes, the Night Sisters temple, very lovely. And then when he's about to head out, he's like, bombard the temple, just destroy them. And the mother's like, what are you doing about to our sacred temple? He's just gonna, that's classic imperialism for Thrawn. So there's that. And then to kind of about adding a character, I mean, here's the thing. It has been done, right? Like Bane and Plagueis were not characters before those books.
No.
Bane was just George's weird name for the Sith Lord who created the world rule of 2 because he needed a name. Same with Plagueis to some extent because I needed to make, like if you just have
the tragedy of Darth Plagueis the Wise. It's not a story the Jedi would tell you.
Exactly. If you just watch the movie, Plagueis could be fake for all we know. Like
true.
Could even Lucino
put it past Palpatine at all, right?
Lucino did make a character for him. Again, Revan's a harder one because again, the joy is the self-insert of the character. So, you could, but then I think for me, my counter is you could, but then you take something away.
Yeah.
Plagueis, you can change up the story. You could say he had an apprentice called Chimere, who he had to eventually ditch or deal with that with an OSHA, stuff like that.
Yeah.
But I also think you would still have the core Plagueis' character, which is he is the I'm obsessed with immortality and finding ways to make the Force make me live forever and create life. Bane, you can kind of go with, although I would be careful how to portray it these days. I am the Ubermensch of Sith. I am a self-made man. Or
the boys does that the Ubermensch perfectly.
I mean, Oh, get Homelander to play Bane then. Forget
Homelander is Bane.
Yeah, get him then.
Yeah.
Yeah, I am the rule of 2, and I'm only. That's how important being a Sith is. So you kind of keep the core of what made those characters interesting. Where with Revan again, you kind of have to switch. But actually, I'm sorry. I feel like I haven't let you talk. So where do you stand on core? I mean, I guess I ask you core characters, especially for Bane and Mara Jade. Let's get to these book characters and stuff like that.
I love Bane. I love Mara Jade. I don't know if I want 1-to-1 copies because I don't think that they would work quite as well, right? And I do like the idea of you take these characters who are.
Oh
no!
Oh no! Maybe maybe you're having internet issues.
Oh no!
That's okay. It happens. Oh,
You know, I guess we can talk about this until Ash comes
yeah.
back. It's interesting though how canon has also, I feel like, made characters Oh wait,
Sorry, well, finish your sentence.
how
And
canon has made characters inspired by legend characters. Like, are you back?
I'm sorry, my tab decided to completely reload.
It happens.
oh,
We were talking about Mara Jade and whether or not we should have her in canon.
Yeah, like I love the concept and the idea of Mara Jade, and I love like Darth Bane, and I love the way that they can take like, hey, this is the core of this character, and let's expand on that. Let's make them super cool, super important. But I also love when they can take a character and be like, okay, well, we like you. We kind of want to split you into different characters because we think that would be more interesting or work better, right? Another one of my favorite Legends characters, Natasi Dala, her role is as both Tarkin's protege and his lover. Tarkin also has a wife in Legends, and I don't see Tarkin having a wife in canon based off of everything that we know about him, right? But also,
he has the mouse droid.
Like, but like Natasi's role, she is also like significantly younger than him, right? And so I'm like, like if she was 90. Brought directly into canon, I don't necessarily think that it would go over very well, right? Because they're like, she was a student at the Imperial Academy when he met her, which age gap, problematic, like, inappropriate relationship. I think that the character of Natasi Dala, when she was I don't know if this is exactly what went into the mindset of creating these characters, but Ellie and Zara as the protege and TK421 as the lover, because then you still maintain that power imbalance, that inappropriate relationship, but you also, it's also fun because it's gay.
That's true. Well, here's a great example of them doing this with a character who I think because of it we don't need anymore. Garm Bel Iblis. I love Garm Bel Iblis, and I don't think you necessarily need to get rid of them, but we have a new canon character who's sort of the militant Timon's pacifist, for lack of a better term, and that's Saw. We've taken the he is, and maybe a little bit of Lucen to some extent too, sort of like these more militant rebel characters to Mon's more pacifism kind of. I mean, that's just the basic concept there of and Saw. I mean, I think in some ways Saw's a better representation of that because Garm's just another senator from Corellia, so he's already an elite with power. Saw's a guy in the trenches who's probably never been in a nice house in his day, so he kind of gets to represent the on the ground rebel who kind of never got to have a little bit of peace. Like, I'm always paranoid. Lucen a little bit like that too. There's definitely a bit of a divide between them. So and you're talking about Bala. I think characters like Snoke and Rey Sloane are hodgepodge, and Balin even are hodgepodges of various Legends characters. Like, I think Snoke's a little bit of Jorah Sabayoth, a little bit of other Darksiders who serve the Emperor. Balin's a little bit of that too. Sloane is sort of like that with Imperial warlords.
I want to see her I want to see Rey Sloane gas a room of Imperial or warlords. It's what the Natasi Dala spirit within her wants to be. And also, when you look at Rey Sloane's like struggles within the Empire of achieving the rank that she did and all of these other things, given that she's a woman, she's one of the few female like admirals in the Empire, she also very much follows the character beats of Natasi Dala in that regard. But she didn't have somebody like Tarkin who would airlock a fellow Imperial for suggesting that she only got where she is because she was his lover. Like, which also gives her more agency than Dala had, which I like, especially because Rey Sloane is a Black woman. Right? So,
although, once again, the pale white man gotta take away the First Order from her, that in his bathrobe, and Palpatine can't handle it. We can't handle it.
Palpatine's a little. Palpatine, meet me in the freaking pit.
But no, or I was about to talk. I was actually just about to talk about this when we disconnected. I was talking about how it's kind of weird. Like Gallius Rax is kind of like they wanted to do like the opera thing for Gallius Rax, which is like the art thing. There's even like a line that's like almost 1-to-1 from Heir of the Empire. Like, do you study art? Do you study opera? But again, Gallius Rax is not Thrawn. He's way more crazy here than Thrawn.
Gallius Rax is insane.
He's more like Izard almost a little bit.
Interesting.
But male. Male Izard.
Yeah.
I think he got the white stroke in his hair like Izard.
Yeah.
The dual eyes. But yeah, it is interesting that I agree we shouldn't bring these characters 1-to-1 always. But also, we should try to maybe make our own versions. I'll ask you this though. Because I think in some ways we have done this, but I am kind of curious to hear your thoughts. Should we bring back Mara Jade, or have we done the thing where we've kind of made characters inspired by her, but aren't her? I'll ask you that. I like Mara Jade too, and I wouldn't mind.
Yeah. Like, I don't want to get my hopes up, but there's a certain actress, a phenomenal actress in Starfighter, who literally was at one point my fan cast for Mara Jade. I don't think she's going to be playing Mara Jade, but it would be nice, at the same, like, while I think that, I also think, like, do we necessarily need Mara Jade? I don't think we do. And I think that, because we can have, like, I feel like we've got a lot more characters that could kind of fill that role of like the Emperor's Hand or something similar to that, right? Because we have the Acolytes of the Beyond now. We've got Kiza, we've got Komat, we've got
Sith Eternal.
Others. We've got the Sith Eternal, right? We've got characters like Kira, who kind of fill that role, but for Maul, technically, but then she gets to take over the power, right? So I think that the spirit of Mara Jade exists in a lot of the female characters that we have now in Star Wars, even if it's not 1-to-1. And, that to me is just as special, because then instead of just getting to love like one character, I get to love a bunch of different characters that have kind of like elements of her soul in them. And it's wow, look at all of you. I love
the current canon runs have two. I mean, there's the Acolyte of the Beyond, who was kind of working with man, I'm just doing bad with names right now. The Acolyte of the Beyond,
one from
Kiza?
No, the one that in the ongoing comic from Battle of Jakku.
Oh, that's right.
Oh, the hot. Yeah. I was really into her, and I can't remember her name, but she was working with Adelhard.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah, her. She kind of has that. I don't know if she's gonna switch teams though. Also, I mean, Tava Ren with that big reveal of the red hair and everything.
Yeah.
So I mean, in terms of just Margie's dark side, allegiances, my understanding is the main gist of her character is helping Luke refound the Jedi Order. Maybe
more
there's
more like getting over their dark side urges and realizing Luke isn't responsible for why she's miserable now.
Yeah. So what's her importance to Luke and what he's doing. Maybe she becomes more important to Rey and what she's up to.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I mean,
so that's possible. But yeah.
I feel like we're just discovering that Thrawn was just such an easy character. That's why he got brought back first.
Maybe.
I will say also,
yep.
One thing you were talking about, like how he was brought back as 9 years before his initial appearance, which they did eventually retroactively have stories set of Thrawn during the Empire.
Sure.
I've always liked that because I think it sort of establishes what Thrawn was like before Endor, and also kind of then has sort of given him reasons to do what he's doing. Like, I've always liked the fact that the reason why I think he teamed up with the Night Sisters was like, well, I lost because of weird Force things like a crazy Doctor Who and space whales. I need my own Force wizardry to manipulate and control to counter Ezra's so here, Night Sisters. And also it gives Thrawn a more of a personal relationship to the enemies, where in the original Thrawn trilogy he's very disconnected from Luke Han and Leia. He doesn't like Luke and Leia are my enemy.
yeah.
Like he's just sort of like, I'm just taking over the galaxy. It's like, there's no like Thrawn is my enemy. He killed my father. Prepare to die. Whereas with Ezra, he's like, oh, I hate this kid. And it's like, I mean, yeah, I'm trying to be logical, but I want Ezra Bridger dead.
Joel, I have a question for, about the guy watching the Dodgers game over there. When he was watching Ahsoka, not having not seen Rebels, was there just everything with Hera, that performance, Mary Elizabeth Winstead, whenever she's talking about Thrawn, we know that story. We know how deep that cuts. Was there that? I'll say this. My guess is that does a really great job of giving a foundation for how big of a threat this character is, just by Hera fighting so hard for there to be a response to him, and just even the way her eyes would light up and or darken or whatever. But
you got the gist of it, most of it,
So. But like giving a feel for how dangerous he is.
The music and stuff too. So I definitely think that's the pace. Before we wrap up, I kind of want to get into like one more little thing. That's just a little bit quick of talk of storylines and concepts.
Yes.
Because I do think this is actually a little bit easier. Sometimes I think things are just window dressing, and I think sometimes we don't want to look up too deeply into things, although that's what we do as fans. So like, when you hear Luthen talk about like the Rakata and stuff like that, I think that's just Tony Gilroy.
Yeah.
Like, hey, story group, I need some like window dressing to give this galaxy like a history. And they're like, here, this is like an ancient empire that kind of was back in the day. Rakata. Okay, thank you. Rakata. Or, you could even do stuff like the Pious Day, like, hey, this is a time when the Republic became an empire for like 1,000 years in the past. Pious Dia, got it, right? But I do think it could be interesting to kind of take these very lore-heavy. I don't want to call them storylines. They're kind of storylines. They're just in the kind of the very texty kind of way, not like Bob the Jedi and his character was he's a lazy bum and had to fight the Pious Dia. But I do think it'd be interesting to kind of like, hey, let's set a story 1,000 years in the past. It's the galaxy's run by the Pious Dia. There's human-centric group, and it's just how Jedi Steve's gotta rally the troops and take it down, right? Yep. Or again, it's kind of like what the
that's kind of the boys also, right?
Not the Mandoverse for you, where it's like they're just taking all the 90s Star Wars books, kind of meshing them into one, and having the Thrawn trilogy be kind of the overarching story line. So I think stuff like that's interesting. Whether or not we actually get a story against where the rebels have to fight the Rakatan Empire this time, I don't know. Maybe they'll do a more streamlined version of the Old Republic where it's not this. Here's Vitiate. Oh, he's in his 10th form. Tenebrae, Vitiate, Valkorian, the Emperor of Dragons, Kneeler of the Cool, 6 of his name, Defender of the Fates, Emperor of India.
What in the Daenerys Targaryen is this?
I know. The dude got more names than Daenerys. Creator of the Circle.
So I want to talk about Pious Day. The reason I'm really curious about Pious Day, and because of, and even to like the Jedi Chancellors and that period, and the Jedi Chancellor that followed Pious Day, right? Done some reading. Done my reading. I'm always curious to see stories of the galaxy being run by or filled with people who have a deeper connection to the Force and what that might mean. I don't think we've had that. The High Republic is the closest we've gotten to really exploring that. So that's why I love it so dang much. One of the reasons, at least. And Reith is able to really bring that out and bring that history out. What would have the big bad be this human-centric theocracy? Where does that? That might be a little too on the nose for right now, but you never know. We could do it more subtly.
Constant X the 10th.
Here's the thing. Subtlety is dead, and even if like you spoon feed information to people, they still, it will all dribble out of their mouths and they'll come out with the most vile.
So Contispex has to have something that looks like Cairo. He has to have orange hair.
I was thinking, I thought you just make him look. I always picture he just looks like the Pope. I mean, just even the name,
but still with orange hair.
Okay, fair.
I mean, Contispex, I was looking like Constantine, but
probably. I mean,
which I have more complicated views about Constantine.
But you said Constantine immediately.
Wrong Constantine. The actual guy who really existed in the real world.
Well, played by the actor who played Constantine in the show.
Yes.
Keanu Reeves.
Sure, why not?
So that's why, I mean, but I want to see things like that, and so that's. I mean, I don't think, from what I've read, at least, doesn't really go into what
it's
they
like a couple
believe.
Paragraphs in the Essential Guide to Warfare.
Yeah, what they believe and why their worship of this goddess leads them to take over the galaxy and all that stuff. But give us a film trilogy about that.
Yeah.
Give us a comic, give us a novel about that. That is the time to go into it, right? So.
Yeah.
I mean, the pre-High Republic galaxy is like spans 25,000 years, and a bunch of stuff just happens.
So there's lots of room, lots of time.
I'm really excited for Dawn of the Jedi, guys.
Yeah.
I mean, there's
absolute cinema.
Yeah. I mean, there's a
literally cinema.
There's a Legends book. I doubt it has anything to do with the book outside the name of the title.
Yeah.
But
there might be, I mean, we have Tython from there.
Yeah. And do you know what one of the moons of Tython is?
Ashla.
It is Ashla. Yeah.
And the other is
which is canon. Which is canon. Because it was Elzar was there in the Rising Storm. Right.
Well, Rebels was also mentioned, the Ashla and the Bogan. So
the Bendu does that.
I'm literally named after one of the moons of Tython.
You are one of the moons of Tython.
Yeah, people will question if I'm a real Star Wars fan. I'm like, well, one of us is named after a moon of Tython, and it's not you.
Yeah. And I think like a lot of, look, a lot of the old Republic stuff is weird and messy. And sometimes it's fun. Don't get me wrong. But I don't think, and again, I think a lot of fans want it just to be brought back 1-to-1. And don't get me wrong, Ash, I kind of do follow your logic where it's like, you can easily say that a lot of those Tales of the Jedi comics from the 90s, which are some of my favorite, could still fit in the modern canon. Just like 5,000 years ago, a Jedi named Exar Kun fell to the dark side and led a war. There you go.
So long ago, it doesn't matter.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
And you can definitely fit that stuff into like lore books and stuff where it's where I always say it's a little non-committal.
Well, you say 25,000 years, right?
Yeah.
That was 5,000 years,
yeah.
How many, like the whole Star Wars history? How long is it? 25,000
years.
A hecking long time ago. And
how long have humans in the real world been really around?
I have no idea.
9,000?
Bronze Age civilization
6,000 years. I don't know.
So we don't have any concept of how long ago that is. Even if we did, we still wouldn't.
Exactly. And
and
I do think you're right. I think the future in some respects, especially now, I think kind of post-sequel trilogy, although I mean, funny enough, I do think it ironically started with Rise of Skywalker being Dark Empire.
True.
I do think we're kind of in this going to be this weird period. Not weird period, just this period now of I mean, look, the creators are going to do what they want, obviously, and certain creators are going to be a little bit more willing to do stuff, and then others probably, want to do their own thing. That's fine. If you have a bold vision, go for it. If James Mangold had a bold vision for Dawn of the Jedi that has nothing to do with that book,
I like that book.
I like that book too, but like if he doesn't want to do the book and he's got his bold vision, I like James Mangold enough, go for it. But I do think we're gonna be in this weird period where it's like either intentionally or not, there's gonna be like it's kind of like Legends. Oh, it's kind of like that storyline. I mean, heck, forget Dark Empire. It did start with The Force Awakens because the last big storyline, or one of the last big storylines of Legends post Endor was oh, one of the Solo kids turned evil and fell to the dark side and became a Sith Lord.
Yeah.
I almost had like I always remember this because I have like this like I had this like weird feeling when I saw that when I was like, oh yeah, that makes sense. Like I almost felt like that's supposed to happen, right? The Solo kid's supposed to fall to the dark side. I was almost like mixing the two things in my head at the time, but I do think we're gonna either intentionally or not. I think a lot of stories are gonna probably like take from Legends, maybe even directly. Maybe they're like, you know what, we can put this character back in. We can use these names. Maybe we will have to make an amalgamation. Like again, I do think a lot of the sequel trilogy and even the Mandoverse are amalgamations of various post-Endor stories, not one-to-one, but hybrids, to quote the 12th Doctor. And I think that's just going to keep going. So, like, when we did Dawn of the Jedi, and when we get Old Republic, like, my hope for Old Republic, whenever we get to cover that era, it's not a one-to-one of the game. It's not a one-to-one of... It's more of, like, let's take the best elements of all that time period and then kind of mix and mesh together. Maybe that means Revan's there. Maybe maybe Exar Kun gets a name drop, but we can use a new big bad guy. So no Tenebrae, he's too OP, and that's kind of where I think the happy medium should be.
Yeah. And where's Darth Talon? I'm sorry, I want her back.
Yeah, her too.
Not for weird reasons.
Sure.
Because she's a Maul Shadow Lord trailer from Celebration.
Okay, I heard it. Yeah. I was doing.
And they were pink.
I was doing my Mon Mothma panel when that happened at Celebration, so and I was right next to this.
You have the right. You should call your friends at Lucasfilm and be like, "Hey, I was there. I paid money.
I was there. I was a little bit busy doing the reason that you let me to come to this convention for free."
Yeah, well, there's that. Yeah.
Look, all I'm saying, they're the Twi'lek and they're pink,
which is awesome.
And don't worry,
she red though?
With reddish pink. And don't worry, they are fully dressed. Don't
perfect.
Look like
I don't want to see a half-naked Twi'lek. Nope.
Well, technically, they should be with Darth Krayt, not Darth Maul. I'm just saying. Yeah. And obviously, yes, Ryan Gosling will be playing Cade Skywalker. That's who he is.
Clearly.
Right, and then we're all going. Darth Krayt's going to be the main villain of 10, 11, 12. It's where it's all going, people.
Matt Smith is actually a young Palpatine strand cast.
Oh, gosh.
Look, Smith. Wasn't Matt Smith supposed to be young Palpatine?
Something like that.
I will hold on to that.
Yeah.
Amy Adams will be Mara Jade.
I thought you were going to say Sigourney Weaver.
Mara Jade Callus Aurelius.
The Stranger Kids kid will be Ben Skywalker, cousin of Ben Solo. It's all one canon. No, we're kidding.
Thank you. Good to know.
Bring back the Pious D.
Yes, I agree. Bring back the Pious D. I just want to go through just to do our due diligence.
Okay.
We have this list at the end here. In case folks are like clamoring, say this character, say that character. In case folks are clamoring, we do have a list that we brought up of characters that have gone from Legends to canon.
Want me to read it or you want to read it?
I'll read it out. And differently. And it isn't exhaustive, so feel free to add more. And in the comments, feel free to add more. The ones you were clamoring for us to say. So we mentioned Pelion, obviously Thrawn, Ruch and the Chimera in there. Byler Valance is interesting because he's basically a continuation of his Legend story in a way.
Yeah.
So there.
I love Byler.
Yeah. Night Sisters have some presence in Legends. Of course, there's the Inquisitorius in Legends. Joel, you have here a bunch of the Empire's advisors. Their names are in.
Thank you, James Lucino.
Yeah. We mentioned Revan. So you mentioned Deck, right? That he isn't likely to come back in because he's a funny character and minor character or whatever. Or I guess he's not minor in KOTOR.
Who's Deck? I don't remember who
Deck is. The KOTOR comics or something. Who were we talking about? Oh no, the Young Jedi event. Young Jedi.
Oh, Zek.
Zed, not T. Zek. So saying he's a funny character. Jackson is canon.
Yes.
Kevin
the little
Scott.
green rabbit. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Kevin
Jackson's
Scott.
popular.
Thank you,
though.
Cav.
Yeah.
Jackson's popular.
So that could be
love
popular. Could be,
Jackson.
I don't know anything was like. Republic Commandos, the game, the video game, and you see them in Bad Batch. There you go. Korriban, so different planets: Korriban, Moraban, Ilum, Ossus. I mentioned Tython. I do wonder. Chandrilla.
I
do wonder if Tython and Ashla and Bogan. I wonder if that's going to come up in connection to the Mortis gods.
Yes.
Oh, probably.
Yes.
Because I mean,
or at least Ashla
Tython the father, Ashla the daughter, Bogan the son, right? Not. Yeah, here's an interesting one, Joel. You have the very idea of the Old Republic and the Jedi and Sith wars. Not that they've ever been shown, but they're implied.
Yeah.
And like there is something like I mentioned with Rusan. There's some sort of great reform that happens.
Yeah.
1,000 years before Malachor. What happened on Malachor? This great Jedi Sith war. I mean, even I guess so that's from the films. You mentioned ISB. You mentioned
I think the very concept of the Mandalorians is also from Legends.
Yeah.
It spawns from Boba Fett, and then was the first reference to like the name Sith in Legends, or am I thinking incorrectly? Okay.
No, I know. Okay, the term Sith. Well, that goes back to George's original concepts, but the term Sith was gonna be used in A New Hope, but they cut it out. It was gonna be the boardroom scene with the Imperial Lord. Goes like, "This Sith Lord that the Emperor has sent to us will be our undoing."
Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
So it's in reference to Vader. Okay.
Yeah. So everyone who had at least Star Wars toys knew that Vader was the Dark Lord of the Sith. That goes back to
okay.
But there's that Sith species, those weird red skins with the gulls or whatever.
Well, there's also a species called the Sith. Yeah.
That's Legends. That
is Legends.
Just expanding on what the heck the Sith were, which no one quite knew.
Yeah.
Which
I think is fascinating.
Yeah. What else was I going to say? A few other examples. I don't know. If folks, think of them in the comments down below. Let us know. But yeah, I guess the last question. Who do you want? Like I mentioned, the Pius Dea and Jedi Chancellors. Could be a character. Could be a faction. Also mentioned the Rakata were mentioned.
Yeah.
Who do you want?
Definitely Xana.
Yes.
My girl. Again, I could be happy with or without Mara Jade. Although if Amy Adams is playing Mara Jade, it will retroactively kill 13-year-old me who was like, Mara Jade hot, Amy Adams hot.
Was it Talladega Nights? That movie?
No, it was. I can't actually remember.
I just remember she was in Talladega Nights.
Yeah,
she becomes Will Ferrell's love interest.
Yeah. Xana's definitely at the top of the list. And probably more of the like Rakatan storyline. Whatever they do with like Dawn of the Jedi and the Old Republic, I'm sad. I love the Skywalker saga. I prefer my Star Wars stories to have nothing to do with Skywalkers, which sounds crazy.
Doesn't surprise me. I don't know.
But like the High Republic is my favorite era.
Yeah.
Even though Mon is my favorite character, those two things don't quite line up. But like I love stories outside of the Skywalker saga because I'm like, most of the people in the galaxy, sure, they've heard of they've heard of Luke Skywalker.
True.
They will never meet a Skywalker. A Skywalker has no bearing on their day-to-day lives. But like all of the history and everything, like, does have an impact on them. I can't think of like, because like Natasha Dalla, I love her. I feel like I feel like the parts of her that can be canonized has been canonized.
Yeah.
I would actually, even though I don't think she would work in canon at all, is Talisa Tarkin, who's literally Tarkin's wife in Legends. I just think it would be funny. Denial is a river in Egypt. Your husband is gay.
Yeah.
And she has no clue. She has no clue that her husband is gay and dating a stormtrooper, and also has like a pseudo daughter.
Yeah. I mean, to be fair, he spends all his time
away
on Death Star and Star Destroyers and running the Outer Rim. So
and not being with his wife.
Yeah, it's like her and Perrin can hang out.
Oh my God, Talisa and Perrin. I mean, look, we all know Perrin's up to some weird stuff with Skulden's wife at the end of Andor season 2.
And Sly
and Sly Moore. Yeah, definitely. That's a carryover from season
Sly
1.
Moore only has it for Palpatine. You all know this.
Look, she's not the only one. I would like for them to never repeat the thing from Legends that Palpatine has like several lovers, and one of them is like I can't remember her first name right now, but it's Izzard's daughter.
Oh.
I'm like, why?
Yeah.
We don't
because the
need
90s
this.
were very Dune heavy, and they wanted to make the Emperor like this party animal with a big fat family. And
like I don't need a Palpatine harem in canon.
We already have Snoke's boudoir. We have Snoke's boudoir already.
I don't want it. If anyone's gonna have a harem, I think it should be Mon.
You don't want Rey's grandma?
Hey, Joel, who do you want from Legends to canon, or what faction, or whatever? What story?
Oh, I mean, I'm gonna be honest. I'm kind of getting my wish. Oh, am I here? Hello, can you?
Yep,
yes,
you're good.
I can hear you.
I can't forgot on my microphone, so I was like, I had to reset. But I mean, I kind of getting my wish with Thrawn. Like once Thrawn was back, and we're doing the post Endor storyline. I'm like, okay, I'm good.
Okay.
But I guess if I had to pick one other, I don't care if it's the Old Republic, the game. I just want a Jedi Sith War. Any ancient Jedi Sith War would be fine. It can be the last one where Bane is the survivor. It can be just a random one set 5,000 years in the past. It sounds like the Jedi had wars on and off again for a long time. Just give me like some ancient Jedi versus Sith War. I think that's probably the easiest thing you could do. Because we didn't talk about this, but I think the final thing, a lot of the reasons why these decisions are made are, especially depending if they're going to be in movies, is how do you get general audiences who only know Star Wars just in the vaguest sense to care, right? Again, no one's going to look and go, Revan, $1 million movie. But, that's what I would want. Just a Jedi Sith War. You can base it off Tale of the Jedi. You can make it up. Just a Jedi versus Sith War. That's all I want.
Yeah. Like, general audiences just want a character design that looks funky or something really cute. Thrawn, Grogu. Like
Revan, Grogu. Imagine those two.
Oh my gosh. Well, I mean, my water bottle is blue.
Oh, blue. Yeah.
Thrawn-ish. Grogu just tries to eat all the toys. He tries to play with all the art.
Yeah. I'm very much drawn in. If I think a character design is funky or the concept is funky, I'm like, I'm in. I'm sold. I love this character already. Like,
there we go.
Exactly.
Fun times.
But yeah. And Matthew, you want the Pious D.
Right? I want the Pious D, and I want Jedi Chancellors.
Yeah. I'm happy if it goes south. I want Stellan and a Chancellor to maybe kiss.
I mean,
but that's not going to happen because they killed him in the High Republic.
But Elzar
maybe grew that beard to kiss Chancellor and she was allowed to call him Stellan. I don't know. Elzar is crazy.
I'll mention one more thing, Matthew, that might entice you a little bit more about that Bane era. There weren't just Jedi Chancellors. The Republic collapsed so badly, there became Jedi Lords that built castles and had families and were medieval lords of the realm protecting the light against the
Prince
darkness.
Bishops.
Yes.
Yeah.
Prince
exactly.
Bishops. There we go.
Yeah.
Fun times. Yeah, there we go. Lots of ideas, lots of interesting ways of bringing real world history back into this. This is what I'm after. There we go. I think that's a good time to wrap things up. I want to watch this World Series game. Ash wants to watch.
Yeah, we are at the end of the 6th, and it's tied up.
4-4.
And in the world of football, hashtag Go Taylor's boyfriend. Chiefs are up 21-7 against the Commanders. So
they're engaged.
Watching 2 games at once while also recording. I'm quite possibly the most skilled person ever.
Well, yeah, we knew that. Yeah, I think that should wrap it up. Thanks everyone for joining, for watching. Again, if there's a character you're interested in, as always, Daisy, good job. Thanks for chiming in. If there's a character you really want to see, Legends-to-Canon, write it down. If there's a character or idea or story that you enjoy, the one that we missed, again, write it down. Let us also know, did the Republic fail? It's a good question there. Ash, always good to see you. I think we're gonna need to take a break from you for a bit. No, I'm just kidding. I'm kidding.
Thought we were friends.
Come back. I'll probably end up texting you tomorrow about something. Who knows what? Just random memes on Instagram. Anyway, thanks as always for coming on to the Iron Cannon podcast. Where can they find you on the internet?
I'll be back in a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
You know what happens in a couple of weeks.
No.
What is happening?
A certain friend of mine.
Oh yes, you will. Yeah. I haven't even started that one yet. So. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sorry. Anyway. Yeah.
It's gonna be very nice. It's gonna be very nice to talk about. I think. As always, you can find me pretty much anywhere I want to be found at Bejeweled Mothma. Yeah. Blue Sky, Instagram. By Instagram, also Threads. Still, look, I'm the Titanic that is Twitter is sinking, and I am one of those little guys with the violin. I'm just gonna go down with the ship. It's gonna explode very soon though, because soon there's not gonna be like a real algorithm. It's just gonna be Grok thinking, hey, I want you to see this AI slop, and I'm gonna be like, I am going to shoot this app like Han in A New Hope, where he's like, it was a boring conversation anyways. Luke, we're gonna have some company. You guys know the scene.
I thought we were gonna say Greedo, but
just
fun times. The Joel Mothma, Instagram, Blue Sky, etc. Joel, thanks as always for leading this. I know I kind of took over at the end, but whatever. Thanks as always for leading and preparing this. Where can they find you on the internet?
You can find me at GID20234 on Blue Sky, GID20234 on Blue Sky. You can find us at the Ion Can Pod on Blue Sky, where I retweeted Charles Soule what he thought about the Knights of Ren origin story. He didn't say anything. He just was all cryptic. Dang it. I want to know what he thinks. Does it match up with what he was thinking? Was he told stuff? I don't know. I want to know those answers.
We will never, ever know.
I want to know why he put Snoke in a hat. Of course, you can find me on the Star Wars Underworld Discord, where we have game nights, movie nights, all sorts of fun stuff. This week we'll be doing a movie night, watching Star Wars Visions. For some of us, the second time. Oh, and be on the lookout in the main channel. You might see a familiar face pop up. So,
Charles Soule.
Yeah, they got
it. Campaigning for the hunt for Ben Solo.
Yeah, exactly. That's why he's gonna come on. Exactly. But yeah, be on the lookout for the familiar face from here.
On the flagship, or
on the flagship. And enjoy Star Wars Visions this week, folks.
Yeah.
That's right. Comes out Friday.
No, it should come out Friday.
Or Thursday. Wednesday.
What
is time?
Wait,
what is linear time? So again, Ion Cannon and that Biscuit Social. You can follow me on Instagram and Threads and Blue Sky at MNEUG1138. That's also me on Discord. I completely forgot to plug the Discord at the beginning. There is the link in the description down below. My mistake. Also, if audio is more your speed, I will put this up on Spotify and Apple and wherever you get your audio podcasts right after this.
Yeah.
There you go. I was so distracted by the baseball game that I forgot the normal plugs. Doing them now. You can follow me still on Twitter, NEUG485. And also the Tractor Beam, Blue Sky. Check that out this Wednesday. Jedi Knights number 8, Tales from the Nightlands number 2, and Afro Chaos Agent number 5 of 5, because that series is donezo. But we'll talk about that for sure. Join that this Wednesday, 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific. And again, on Blue Sky, the Tractor Beam is there. Tractor and Comics Reviews. But that should do it for wrong thing. For the Iron Cannon podcast next week. I hope I will have the Last Order finished. I hope. If not, we'll got something else going on. But I'll do my best to finish that book, and then we'll talk about it. So check that out right back here Monday, 8:30 p.m. Eastern, 5:30 p.m. Pacific. But until then, Ash, Joel, let's blow this thing and head home. And go Jays, go.
Go Jays! Woo!
Go Dodgers.